Okay, the Public Works Commission is conducting this meeting on January 14th, 2025, 2026 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Zoom platform and in person. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on the town's website. We will do voice votes until Dave gets on, and then we'll do roll call. I, Andrea Salmon, call this meeting to order. We will start with the attendance of the commissioners. I'll just read your names for the recording. Gretchen Rohrback. Here. Christine Reynolds. Here. Sven Weber.
Here.
Andrea Salmon is here. Right, all commissioners are not physically present when Dave shows up, so then after that we'll do the roll call. We'll start with the review and approval of minutes. This is from the meeting on December 11th, 2025. Does anyone have comments on the minutes or corrections?
No comment.
Okay. Okay.
Put the motion to move forward.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor of minutes?
Aye.
All right, so we'll move on to a review of the calendar.
Okay, say a quick look, sort of the preview will be teasing out water sewer rules and regulations. We've talked about that in the past, but it's been almost, maybe over 20 years since we've last updated the water sewer rules and regulations. So that's on the docket. We're targeting next month. And then shortly after that, the roads program, and that's very important in March, where we're going to be communicating what the roads are, the sort of treatments, and sort of give the commission an overview of the beginning of our more aggressive roads program. So that'll be a pretty high interest priority. But those, and then we have town meeting activities that will be sort of infusing intermittently as we learn more. But that's sort of the high level.
Do you know when your hearing is?
Yes, did I include? No, I'm sorry, just put the prep. I didn't put the hearing in. We actually will be involved with two. We have both the general fund and the enterprise. Aaron, do you know the 5th and the 12th? It's the 5th?
And 5th and 12th of March.
Okay, March 5th and March 12th. One will be for the general fund and then the other is the enterprise.
Okay, we'll move on to public.
Just-
Oh, go ahead.
On that. Testing of there. No, don't, we discuss it later, sorry.
Okay. We'll move on to public comments for any items that are not already on the agenda. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Linda Neiman, Mallard Drive. I was hoping to hear more in a public conversation about the Baker Ave intersection and the whole paving and the level of stress. And your plan for that. I noticed that there's a nice map on which roads, what is the plan, but I also want to know if it would be tied into potentially the level of stress and the how we're going to accommodate pedestrians and vulnerable users at the same time.
Could we
Do
do
you
that?
want to hit that during the director's report when we talk a little bit of some of the projects? Yeah, I think we can touch on that in the director's report.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Anybody else? Oh, David.
Dave DeLong has joined us, so.
Hello, David.
Hi, folks.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Sorry, I have to be remote.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Sven might have an update for us on the Ramsey's working group.
Yeah, I just looked back on the last minute where I left it. I think we are now getting on the land use working group to the point where the subgroups are narrowing down the options and which options make sense in principle, and then also in which order they would rank. They all work through evaluation metrics with typically the financial impact the highest rating in this. Yes, I think
I'm a fan of
biggest
that.
challenge for the town, no matter what. And I think it was interesting when you will see the options coming out, that based on a lot of information, discussions of the subgroups, some of the opinions where people started in the beginning of the land use working group evolved. And that's good. That's good. It shows that the group really did a good job. For public works, the effect is, of course, the biggest topic for us is here, the location of the public works campus. And they're still working through the metrics. So let's see what the outcome of that is. We also got, I think similar to us here, a letter with respect to the compost side. And the group also presented, the respective group presented in front of the public works subgroup in the land use working group, that had a chance to provide their arguments. But it seems that this is not the imminent focus for the official phase 1 of the land use working group. It is more than in phase 2 when you say, okay, what do you do with the land that is not used or touched by these options? Is there any recommendation now?
You're talking about the compost side, or you're talking about our campus?
The compost side.
Okay.
In the end, if you have the campus located, the fire and police located, whatever is done with the municipal consolidation, so if you have these pieces of the puzzle together,
Mhm.
now you have to
You're
fill
trying to
it.
limit the variable.
Yeah, so you would have exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to just deal with what you have right
Yeah.
now, and then see is this a topic or not at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we get a lot of input, not only for the public works subgroup, but in general. Russ is doing a lot of work with respect to what is the status of the different buildings, what can be done, what cannot be done, just really feeding a lot of information.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
There was something in our packet about the PBD school that they had finally finished getting it together and somebody was moving in their facilities.
So
Are
that's
we gonna hear about that? So.
I think that was independent of the land use working group.
It was, okay.
That for now, also for insurance reasons, it helps the insurance if the building is at least somehow occupied
Mhm.
and not completely empty, that the building is used. And I think you
It's
even
temporary.
Russ,
One
yeah,
group.
it should.
It's temporary?
Yes,
Oh, do we have, who is determining?
so
That's not.
we can talk a little bit maybe with the director's report if we
That's
want to
where
get
it
into
was.
that.
I didn't, but I thought that was
So that's-
under your jurisdiction. I
No,
apologize.
No, and we don't have jurisdiction. The land use working group will only make recommendation and throw it over
I
to
just meant that, that was in your
the select board.
bucket of things that you were looking at. Sorry. Your pot of gold.
Your remit.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to D3 Stormwater Enterprise Credit Policy.
Sure, I will sort of bring up Steve Dukeman, town engineer, and Sammy Fogle, our environmental engineer, stormwater. Well, they're coming up. We wanted to review, just in review, we talked about abatement policies last meeting. Now we're getting into sort of a better understanding of the credit, application approaches. There will be an action item where, you may recall there was a policy when we went through, this 2-year process with abatement and credits, it was included in the packet. And there's been slight modification based on some lessons learned, some additional work we've done, primarily focused on the small residential application, how we want to look at that. So I'm gonna, Sammy sort of got a bit of a cough here. Steve, if you want to sort of tee us up and kind of walk through briefly the proposal.
All right.
We're looking for.
Yeah, so Steve Ducan, town engineer. We've discussed quite a bit in the past, the credit policy, credit being allowed because given an incentive to homeowners, property owners to to do what we call best management practices in terms of capturing and treating stormwater, so the public doesn't have to deal with that stormwater. So there's an existing policy that was brought before this commission and approved back in December of 24. And it's pretty lengthy. We have it online. We did do a summary back then, and it essentially talked about the types of credits. So for small residentials and small residentials, again, being 1 to 3 family units, they are eligible up to a 25% discount on their fee if they have these best management practices installed. And it is a somewhat of a process for them to get a credit. They have to apply, give evidence of what they have, give us the opportunity to go there and review it, and then make a decision. So as far as the larger residentials and non-residentials, similar kind of concept where if they have BMPs, they apply, they get evaluated, and they can get a credit up to 50%. And so it's a bit of a burden for an applicant because they have to provide us evidence in terms of plans, in terms of calculations, and so on. Before I go on, I want to let you know also we have approved the ability to give a 25% discount to low income. We had a discussion before, and that's automatic because these applicants will be automatically qualified under the utility discount that they already get for electricity, water, and so on. So anyway, with regards to the BMP credits for small residentials, we have investigated and found that there's an opportunity to use a simpler method, which we call the point system. And we went through and in the memo that we provided on page 3, we talked about what kinds of, what point values would you assign to the various BMPs. For instance, a rain garden or bioretention will get up to 3 points. Rain barrels and cisterns, which we weren't considering before, but it's a pretty popular item in other communities, we'll give a point per barrel for a maximum of 2 points. Porous pavement, 3 points. Disconnecting your downspout, up to 2 points. Dry wells, up to 2 points. So an applicant can simply fill out a form, list what they have, provide some evidence in terms of photographs and so on, and then will give us the opportunity to go out there and inspect and verify, and then you can give the credit. We have stated here that will be our preferred default way of treating these small resident applications. However, we want to leave the current system where you do the percent impervious treated, leave that available for them if they so choose, because you may have a large parcel that has sophisticated treatment systems and so on, and they do want to have a more accurate way of calculating their credit.
But who's choosing the applicant or you?
It'll be up to the applicant.
Okay.
We wouldn't touch what's existing for large residentials in terms of multi-families and non-residentials. They will do that more engineered type, verification for their systems. Commercials, especially through the planning board action, they have to maintain their BMPs and submit annual reports and so on. So we keep our method consistent with large residentials and commercials.
So the small residential don't have to reapply annually?
In terms of annually applications, the credit's valued for 1 year. It's valid for 1 year. And because things happen, people change their properties, they're always paving or expanding and so on. We would like them to reapply. Now, we have built into the policy, if they were to provide evidence of that the system still exists, nothing has changed in terms of like just photographs, just prior to the beginning of the following year, it will be almost automatic.
Mhm.
But if they don't do so and they want to wait later in the year, then we have to go through the application process and so on.
So I'm just trying to imagine so that there will be most likely a form where you fill this stuff out. But is then there a checkbox or something saying there's no change to prior year?
So we have the application where we have the first time credit application versus the credit renewal application, like check marks, so they can check. So it will be easier for us to identify which is for the renewal. We will have to modify this application slightly just because of a point system, so it's easier to understand for the residential, but the credit renewal part is in the application and will remain as is.
A few years ago, I might be dating myself, the town had rain barrels that you could get. Does the town still have rain barrels? Because I would love to put in a couple of rain barrels and get it for credit.
We did have a program back when it was more innovative and they weren't so readily available, but you can get rain barrels at Home Depot, at job lots, so we had a nice program where they were the old, rum barrels, the
Yeah.
wooden ones, those became very cost prohibitive. They were just very expensive, so a lot of people adopted them. A lot of people, you literally can get a rain barrel almost at any hardware store now. So we haven't really, sort of pushed it. And that was a conservation initiative through the water fund. So, yeah, and that was, we're talking 30, 20, 30 years ago.
I'm an old folk.
We all are.
Okay, I was just wondering if it might be something fun that maybe they're not gonna do it as we're kicking this off, saying, here's the simplest way you could do is put up a couple of rain barrels.
Yeah, one of
Just as a
the,
way to advertise this, that
Yeah.
they can get credits and to have probably the easiest, apple to pick off the tree.
right, one of the challenges with the stormwater, I just would be very clear, the funding is minimal. And I think Chris, you had raised a question on, are we gonna be spending resources and actually.
They're gonna sell them, I'm not giving them away.
No, when I say sell, but there's still resources to do these sorts of things, to make them attractive. And that's how we used to do it with conservation and water, but right now it's a fairly involved process. And right now with the stormwater, we really are lean as far as the available funds we're collecting to a lot of the programs. But I hear you. I think the credit policy alone in practice is an education.
Yep.
And it's not just rain barrels. Really, if people care, they're gonna learn a little bit more about it, see what they may do. And some of these things we're using from other communities' experiences that they have as far as, why a downspout, why rain barrel, why the impervious cover. People will learn a little bit as they start exploring. Interesting. And we also have a lot of information on the web, where they can learn. So
You also have introduced the minimum threshold where you need to at least have 4 points in order to receive the minimum
Yeah,
credit.
so that's the de minimis that I was looking for, right? Because this is all a lot of,
Yeah,
this all
because-
still feels like a lot of work
it is,
for not a lot of dough that's gonna go back in credits. It's not.
Mhm.
correct.
So I would still caution you to think about making it simple. So maybe you try it this way and then figure out a way to sort of simplify it. Because
Agreed.
this is still a lot of work.
And that's the
people and
point,
for you.
the point process is much simpler to administer. That's what we've learned. So kind of using your encouragement, that's kind of how we went to the point system. The whole idea, well, why would someone do more? Well, larger estates might be
Yeah.
more complex. And I do think we come back to the commission, and see how things go in a year. And, a lot of this for the stormwater is new. There's only a couple dozen in the state.
Right.
And I think we are mindful of making sure we collect the revenue for the actual work that needs to be done. And really, some of these credits, you said, what did we talk, 25% of $40.
$40. De minimis, right?
Exactly.
So.
So is,
Dave is raising his
Sorry.
hand, Dave.
Quick question. What am I listening for here? Am I going to be asked to vote on something or?
Yes, I'm sorry, Dave, you missed sort of the preamble when we were talking, but because we're making a slight modification of a policy that was already adopted through the commission, and it's specifically using a different approach to assign credit value for the small residential. That's what we'll be asking for. So we're really focused on those, a fairly simplistic approach versus, and I think it's worth talking about, the other one was a percent or of impervious cover. It could be more complex, measurements, calculations, things like that. And I think it's important to say we will continue to do that because in some cases there are fairly significant fees in larger complexes and campuses, and they have more complex stormwater infrastructure. And really the benefit of this program is it will force them to manage those systems, which otherwise there's really not an incentive to do it. But if they're going to spend, rather than, writing a check for, $5,000, they might do the maintenance for a couple thousand and get the credit. And it's worthwhile and everybody wins because the system is maintained. They receive some credit and incentive to do the right thing. But really, this is for those more nominal, smaller properties, parcels, where there's only very limited things they can do.
But we're not voting on anything today.
Yes, the vote will be to modify the policy to
Okay.
incorporate this approach.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question on the application. So it says that if they already are on the exemption for the utilities, it says that they have to attach their tax return. Do you really want that? Why don't we just say if you've got
a
it?
notification to that? So that was when we first started it. That was our understanding, and we came to know that if they're receiving the discount from
They've already
for other
done that.
utility,
Right.
then we'll just get the list of those properties and apply automatically to them. So they don't have to separately apply
Good,
for
that's
this.
great. That's what I wanted.
Easier for them and easier for us.
Exactly right. Okay.
Question on the minimus. The minimus is on the point system, but the minimus is not on the percentage calculation system. So is the reason why you only choose the minimus in one of the two?
Yeah, so let me explain. There are complexities to the percentage system. The way it's stated in the policy existing, most policies you see anywhere, it's the percent of impervious treated, right? And that percent treated that area treated is what your reduction would be.
Yeah.
To get that, you have to figure out where is the water coming from? Is it all the roof? Is it a portion of the roof? Is it a portion of the driveway? And that makes it complicated. So therefore, trying to establish the minimus there is going to be difficult. So if someone wants to go through the length of doing of that,
Identifying all that and
Yeah.
providing the evidence of that, then.
And then with looking at the point system downspout disconnection. So my house, as probably many here, doesn't have downspout. It just comes down the roof and goes in my yard. So I can't disconnect the downspout.
You don't have gutters?
You don't have gutters?
No.
Huh.
Okay, you're not normal.
You're unusual.
I've seen
You,
Ben, we did the best to look at other models and just emulate.
Here again, Sven is the
No,
example.
no. The challenge is every time we get a little bit more creative, we create a little more complexity.
For how many disconnected downspouts do I get credit then? Got it.
And you can take pictures of your neighbors.
Saying is this downspout disconnection, you can get up to maximum of 2 points, but getting 2 points is not going to give you credit because the maximum you need is 4 points. So just having the downspout is not going to give you credit. You need to have downspout and something additional.
I have to try well.
You're gonna get it.
Gonna save the $20.
But we're gonna get a team to review your submittal.
Question is, I have impervious driveway. You don't know.
Just drill holes in.
It's brick without any mortar.
Again, I think to Chris's point, we're going through something
Yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah.
We're trying to create something that is reasonable, responsive to the incentive concept. And the commission was very important to sort of underscore. And I also say it helps in establishing a stormwater utility. I'll be very clear. We've looked at models that are the most sound when it comes to if anyone wants to challenge the whole concept. We've looked at this. You know, and so we want to make sure we're doing all the right things to make the creation of this utility as legally defensible as possible. And that's not by accident.
So can I reiterate what we're looking for?
Yes.
As far as the policy change, it will be using the point system as the preferred for small residential properties. As well as you would see in the documents that are available online and which will have to be changed. We do have the term senior/low income discount. The senior part doesn't apply, it's just the low income. So we will modify the documents to mean that. So that's as far as the policy changes. We also will be adding more as a procedural thing, the application process. Similar to what we discussed here at the last meeting for abatements. Credit application will go through a similar process where within 30 days of receiving a bill, they apply for credit for that bill and gets reviewed. We have a 60-day turnaround and that kind of thing. And then if there's a disagreement on the decision made by the department, they have the ability to appeal, and we have a section here for them to appeal that decision to this commission, just like they would for an abatement denial. So all of that is included, not in the policy, but the procedure way of applying the policy. So we're asking for the commission's endorsement of this process as well.
Which is all spelled out in the memo.
It's all spelled out.
Do commissioners have more questions?
I don't.
You want to open up? Any other?
Questions from the floor?
Don't see any hands up. Remote? No?
So it's still. Okay, here it is. I just picked up on my bill I just got.
I hope it's correct.
Yeah, I just realized it's a page break. I thought something is missing. It's on the page break. Okay.
Yeah, so the first bill went out on 9th,
Yeah.
10th,
12?
12th.
Monday.
What's it?
This now, yeah.
On Monday. Yes.
Two more cycles.
It's not mine.
Yeah, we're receiving calls and inquiries.
So
from
you
the
got a lot of
residents.
inquiries?
Some, I think I'm still expecting to get more. It's like just the very beginning. But with the calls, we kind of identified, okay, somewhere there's error and stuff that needs to be fixed. So we're working through that as well.
Yeah, we are going
But
through
like
a
it's the
startup.
first time, so this is kind of like
Yeah,
first
yeah.
month is gonna be a.
We'll provide feedback and update once we start, you know, it's been, I will say, a lot of effort on staff's time to get this stood up. And you know, Sammy and Paula Bertram, you know, have been working closely with the light plant as well as NISC, the vendor who provides the billing programming. And it's continuous back and forth, a lot of detail, so we'll keep you posted. But, you know, once we get it stood up, you know, we establish, you know, we kind of went through it with the solid waste recycling. This has been unusual. It's been an unusual lift for staff, so we appreciate the support and actually, you know, sort of the guidance that we've gotten as far as to try and encourage us to do things in a streamlined way, because we can get creative and that doesn't really help anybody, so.
Do I have a motion to accept the change?
I, Gretchen Rohrbach, move that the Public Works Commission accept the updates in policy and administration of credits related to stormwater utility fees as detailed in the memorandum of the commission from the Director of Public Works, Ellen H. Cartwright. Dated January 8th, 2026.
So, do I have a second?
Second.
I'll do a roll call vote then. Dave DeLong,
I,
Justin Norberg,
Aye.
Christine Reynolds,
Hi,
Sven Peter,
Aye.
Andrea Solomon, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Can I make a point?
Sure.
Quick point. I don't know whether you've tested this. Whatever the form is, as a taxpayer, I'm going to have to fill out to apply for this abatement. I just strongly urge you to have a few people look it over who might apply or who are just a typical citizen and point out where they get stuck, where there's jargon or language in the form or on the form that they say, wait a minute, what do I say? How do I answer that question? One of my pet peeves in life is all these forms online that I get to ask to fill out, and I just get stuck because I have no idea what they're really asking and how I should answer that. So I just would encourage you to possibly test it, even with your friends, just people who
We
can.
have received a couple of applications already. And based on those applications is where we figured out we need to definitely specify how to go about it, the review wise. So it has been tested somewhat, and that's where we'll be doing the revision to the application as well, based on that, all of the
Good.
comments.
Yeah, good. Because it's hard. It's hard to communicate in a way that particularly the non-technically educated person understands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
and we didn't talk about the billing now, or we talked
Yeah,
about?
we can talk with the director's report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the, thank you. One last thing. Thanks, we'll move on to the town meeting draft warrant article review.
So I included in the packet, this is just sort of for information purposes, but also it may result in action items. A quick overview of the process. The warrant opened, last, was Friday. We talked about it conceptually, but, what I'd like to do is just inform the commission of, highlight those articles of interest to Public Works primarily. There may be 30, 40 articles. If they're on the meeting remote, they can hear me as well.
No one can screen share, right?
Right now, no one should be able to screen share.
Alan, can you hold on for one moment? Can we're
Use
I
it.
think we're back.
Okay, all right, so
Where were we? What happened?
I think if,
That's me.
okay, if you take your speaker off. Yeah, speaker. So
Okay, so annual town meeting.
annual town meeting, so what we're going to do is go through those articles of interest to the Public Works Commission. I call them, they're typically non-routine articles and routine articles. And the non-routine articles are either articles that may change year to year, so we include the appropriations for, the general fund, the capital and debt plan. This is something that is submitted, through the town manager's office. I wanted the commission to be aware of, this was part of a presentation that the CFO had provided to FinCom. What's important to know is that, well, we made a lot of requests, I think to the tune of, somewhere it was over $9 million. We got somewhere close to $4.5 million or so appropriate, or at least identified. Again, all this is where it's going to have to go through a couple hearings where people can ask questions. Generally, they may want specific line items they're interested in. You'll see we have equipment, we have programs. I think rather than share my screen right now, I'm just going to sort of highlight what we were informed is, Steve Dukran, I don't know if you can, actually, I don't have to share my screen to see. I want to be, just give you a heads up that, so the total value that we had requested was 9.2 million. And what has been green lighted, or at least submitted as, part of the proposed budget, is just over 4 million. The notable changes that were made were basically in the engineering division. we had identified some significant costs that were identified as traffic signals and signage. And that was to the tune of about $325,000. Steve, just briefly, the traffic signal signage, why, we thought it was important, but it didn't make the cut. And do you want to sort of describe what's not going to happen based on what you're hoping for?
Yeah, so the request for 325,000 consisted of trying to address some needs. The Main Street Baker Ave intersection improvement that's under design, that the question came up earlier. The current estimate is a lot higher than when we started the project, and has to do with double-digit inflation we've seen over the last few years. And so some of the request was going to go to help with that project, as well as making improvements over on Pine Street and Church Street, which is signalized, as well as the Route 17 Sudbury Road intersection. We also included in this request for $325,000 a small amount for annual maintenance of our signal system. And so we will try the Main Street Baker Avenue intersection will go forward. We will try to make up, whatever the need is from the roads program, from Chapter 90, whatever we can find, because this is an important project to complete. The other intersections will have to wait until more funding in the future, comes up. As far as the maintenance goes, the town finance department has decided to fund that amount, $30,000, under an operations line. The operations line is for street lighting.
Good.
And so we'll find that money in
And it's routine. We need that money every year. So,
Yeah, right.
and I will say, working with the new CFO, there's been a real interest to try and, work through our budgets and carefully look at that these are annual expenditures, they should be operating. And so we had, I think of note was one of the considerations. So the engineering operating budget went up because it's pretty small to begin with, but it went up because of that particular increase. And then there was also the landfill monitoring. We've had conversations, that's an annual activity. I think about $25,000 or something was added to the operating budget for engineering. So that practice or principle is in place. And so we're trying to, right size the budgets, both the operating and capital. So that was one item. It also identified parking. The parking lot, we had funds that we were looking to get support, about 370,000 did not get supported. And Steve, can you describe that potential application?
Essentially, that request in FY27 was this campus parking. It is deteriorating. It needs, reconfiguration to make things work better. Not getting funded means that the improvements will be deferred whenever funding becomes available again in the future.
Okay.
So just note, and then another one
The
was
other improvement of funding requests for improvements on this related to this campus over and above this.
for the facilities.
Yeah.
No, there's no significant, request for facility expenses for this fiscal year.
How much was that one, the parking for here?
That was
250?
about 370 for parking lot rehabilitation.
Okay.
And then there was traffic improvements with 724,000, Steve, that did not get reimbursed or
Yes.
did not get proposed, excuse me.
Yeah, that request had to do with looking at intersections that need big improvements. For instance, the Commonwealth and Lawsbrook intersection. We intend to, under our safety improvements, to do pedestrian improvements at an intersection at a much lower cost. But if you want to look at the traffic operations there, which there are problems, you need a much larger amount of money. That's one of the sections we wanted to address, as well as the Haywood Street, Lexington Road intersection, the operational issues there. we're hoping that to get the funding, at least to start the design, which will
Mhm.
determine what we need for construction.
Okay,
So, no money given for those projects.
okay,
One other that's notable, and this is significant because we have lots of discussion on the pedestrian bicycle safety. We had proposed $1.25 million for significant improvements. This is above and beyond what we were carrying for the borrowing authorization from last year, which was total of about 2.5 million.
Over
So-
5 years. yeah.
So we'll still be spending some money towards this, to complement the roads program. But there's probably not gonna be any larger, initiatives. Carlin should be, okay, yeah. So that was notable, and really what they're saying is, there's, at this point, we have funds. They're looking to have us leverage what was already authorized for borrowing. I think,
That was 1.25 million it was gonna be for sidewalk and pedestrian.
yes, this was for pedestrian and bicycle safety, Steve, and
No.
maybe you can describe that.
That's not fun.
That's right. That's right. So those were sort of the more notable initiatives through engineering. I do know,
But the.
Yeah.
The roads program, that's in that 4 million,
there is money for pedestrian, cycling, and
Yeah.
safety
so that's
improvements.
in the 4 million, that's still.
No.
In this, or is it,
no, it's in the,
It's in the
stuff we
borrowing,
got from the
okay.
borrowing.
27.5
million.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, and I think what they want to do is see progress and improvements and maybe that will help get the community to support, some of these additional, needs that we've identified. We know that it's not, the 27.5 million is a lot of money. I will, make the case strategically. I think we're in a very good place because just recently with a culvert project, we saw costs that were less than what probable cost estimate. We know every community is struggling for funding. Good news is we now have money appropriated to do significant road improvement. And the less, we'll have more competitive bids because not everybody can do that kind of level of work. So we're hoping that we might actually be the beneficiary of, we've got the money to spend and maybe we can make it go a little bit further. So
We were looking for 5 million, so engineering had 2.7 million,
Yep.
thereabouts.
So the others
Correct.
were let's see, there was some notable facilities for us. We had $100,000 for building reuse funding. Can you speak to that? Remember there was part of the facilities budget. It was building reuse for $100,000.
That was what the original ask was for Peabody, I think,
Okay,
so,
so there's no additional funds.
No.
Okay, then we had for facilities, we had, oh no, the Peabody School funding renovation was 2.5 million.
Oh, that was
but
the
that,
one,
yeah, that's got pushed out.
that's the one we said you don't put
That's
that on the
right,
list,
that's right.
okay,
Exactly.
okay.
Then there was another
That's a big piece of
100,000
it.
for building reuse funding that didn't get funded. In essence, for facilities, we did get $750,000, which is for a few of the larger, capital projects, kind of miscellaneous.
Yeah, those are, we're in what we refer to as firefighting, or keeping the buildings operating. So we need to have, fund available to go out and do the repairs as we need to do them. Roofing project here is gonna take some additional funds, Parrot Mill Farm is gonna take some additional funds. There's HVAC work we have to do at the police station, it's gonna take some additional funds. And COA has chewed up a lot of our capital to get that stair project done and off the books moving forward. So we're just playing catch up on things as they break. Hopefully, if things go forward with consolidation, we can have a longer term look on capital planning and be more structured in our needs.
And then, Chris, the other funds that were not moved were passenger vehicles to the tune of about $100,000 and a tractor, which I think was about $100,000 as well.
Okay,
So those were the things that were, can you hold off? And-
so these were your choices essentially.
Yeah, we had, I will say, we had a very good meeting with finance to sort of talk about where are the pressure points and what can we, what's the need to versus, have to kind of stuff, so.
So you're comfortable with what you ended up?
Yeah,
with?
relatively speaking, this is the way, every year you go through this
Right.
process and, because we have so many assets, our asks are always pretty significant
Yep.
and, but I think the real issue is there's the back and forth. I will say.
Can I just ask a couple of questions?
Please,
So-
yes,
So,
yeah.
so the chart that you showed us, it was 2.4 million plus another 850, so it was 3.2 million on this chart. So you said you're getting,
4
so
million.
where's, what am I
So-
missing? What's not on the list?
What we have is, I'm just gonna read down, we have, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery.
Oh, cemetery is on,
That's not,
okay.
it's,
Because the
850,000.
is gonna approve that.
It is, we're still, the town manager wants to, this is 850,000 is for
Yep.
expanding the cemetery. The cemetery fund is not healthy enough to absorb that.
Right,
But it would also be struggling if they can't expand. So the understanding with town manager's office and the CFO is, well, that money, they're gonna figure out where the 850 is. It's not out of the cemetery fund, but they do. Or they
it has
do,
to come from the general fund, or it's,
they will, I will,
is it in your budget?
it's
or
not in our budget.
Okay,
And then once, the commitment is, once you have the expansion of, I think it's up to about 700, 800 lots, Aaron, is it?
Yes, 750.
750? So there's a commitment where the cemetery committee will be looking at what is the cost per lot? How do we look at sort of the long term?
yeah, I didn't watch the meeting, so I
Yeah.
don't know what they said, but this is, so one of my earlier questions, right, was,
Yeah.
is it clear to them they own it, right? So if this request is their request, the income is theirs, the cost should be under their, I think, approval. When I look back at how their charter was, that's what it said.
Mhm.
So I don't know who's in charge of this, but I know we're not, so
Yeah.
it's okay with me, but I want to make sure somebody knows that you're supposed to.
Aaron,
look
do
at
you want
this.
to speak to Aaron McCloskey, Highway Ground Superintendent, and also is, members of the cemetery committee?
Good evening, Aaron McCloskey, I'm a ground superintendent. Yeah, so under the highway and grounds umbrella of my division, cemetery is a function. So we're involved as we create a budget proposal, submit that, we review it with the cemetery committee, we work with them on their capital planning. And following their kind of their master plan, provide guidance and essentially estimates for these projects.
Right.
So it is under their purview. They're going to be the ones that will support the article and wherever that funding ends up from based on the town manager and CFO's recommendation. If it ends up being its own article or part of another capital article. But yes, it doesn't come through the Public Works Commission for support necessarily. But cemetery is a function of public works operation.
You do the work.
Correct.
But the agreement to do the work or the authority to do the work rests with them.
Yes, ma'am.
It should be their capital plan. They know what they're doing, they know what the income's gonna be, et cetera. It's not ours.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Thank you.
So I think those were the differences,
Okay.
notable.
Okay, and the equipment replacement that we have in here, we have about 1.1 million in equipment replacement. I assume all of that comes against your own schedules, right? So you have a set of schedules that say this is when the machinery needs to be re-upped, and
Yes.
you know how to sell it, or probably you
That's-
can't sell it much of it, but.
So we submitted as part of through Cleared Web through the budgeting process, a 10-year fleet replacement schedule that was everything that's scheduled to be replaced in the next 10 years. And then each of those have a detailed sheet supporting the request. And in that sheet shows what the standard schedule is that we follow. We were, like Alan mentioned, we had a good conversation with the finance team on what out of that request we submitted for FY27, what are our priorities and what can we kind of go without. So we'll be next year, obviously reshuffling that 10-year schedule based on pushing out those items.
But you follow a process, they
Oh,
have
yeah.
dates, and that's all I'm asking.
And we use industry standards, but then we actually stretch those, but we do have our,
Yep.
if American Public Works says equipment might be good for 7, we're more conservative, we might say 10, but it is on schedule.
Good, so, and then lastly, on Emerson Court improvements, so this replacement of their tennis courts or their pickleball courts, whatever they are. Is that the rec department?
Yes.
They approve that, right? So you may do the
Yes.
work, but this is outside of us.
We have discussions with them. It's under, so they administer programs and they prioritize based on their recreation master
Right.
plan. We advise on conditions, and if it's in a condition that's past the point of maintenance and it gets pushed to, it needs to be replaced, we work with them. The request is coming from them. It's not coming from Public Works.
Great. I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
So, thank you.
So any other questions on the capital borrowing? Just again, information, there'll be the hearings, there's still the back, this isn't baked yet. It's
What was
still-
last year? Do you know what your last year number was? I'm just trying to for context, but again, it's
I
leaving
don't.
the other stuff out.
I don't recall because it was, the focus was 27.5 million.
Yeah.
So half, but
Okay,
I
I can
don't
look it
recall
up. That's
that.
all right. Thank you.
sorry. Okay, so then we have, other sort of non-routine. I say those are non-routine because that'll change year to year as far as those asks and it's important to note that we have the Darton Street betterment, for the temporary improvements. So this is the placeholder to, in essence, allow the town to be the project manager and financing agent, to make this project happen. I will note that there's an article which is sort of the for appropriation for borrowing. There will be betterment agreements with all the abutters, which the commission has voted to sort of assess equally amongst the 13 properties, including one town property. And that agreement is still a work, that's much more complex.
That has to happen before this could go forward.
Well, actually, this goes forward subject to, the betterments, so. It's kind
We
of-
can go ahead and have the
Exactly.
warrant then. Okay.
Exactly.
Is that subject to voting in there?
Talking with council,
Okay.
I know there was flexibility as far as when we actually, execute the
Yeah, but
the
that's a good
agreements.
point. If they aren't executed by the time we go to the town meeting.
I'll confirm,
Just make sure they tell people it's
Yeah.
contingent upon those. And it doesn't mention anything about the interest. I don't know why that is, because I think that should be called out.
And I know that would be part of, I haven't had a chance to go to council
Yeah.
since that, sort of the
Yeah.
question on the interest, but was very clear when we had the meeting
Yes,
and the
yeah.
vote, that it's all
It's all
inclusive.
included.
Unless they
right.
want to pay lump
Right.
sum up
I
front.
just think it
that's
should be
great.
explicit that the
Yeah.
town knows that.
That's
Yes,
right.
it's the cost plus the interest.
And more importantly, I'm expecting that staff will recircle with the neighborhood to walk them through so they understand where we are. Where, where we expect to go, they can be, sort of a voice. And I have to remind people, it wasn't 100%. There could be dissenting voice, but they're a minority and they have a voice as well.
Yep.
So that's the Darton Street. The another one that's a little bit unusual, this is interesting with the PFAS settlement, in essence. We have been involved with a class action, a couple lawsuits regarding for manufacturers of the polyperfluorinated alkyl substances, PFAS. And in essence, we are already receiving funds, but part of this is we need to have a dedicated fund established just for that, for those monies. And so town meeting will allow us to set up the fund and then draw from them, expenses that directly relate to PFAS impact.
Capital operating, what is it gonna be? How you calculate.
Well, it's kind of interesting because water quality testing is kind of an operating expense, but it's up between $1 million and $2 million. But just to be clear, a treatment facility is $5 to $10 million for the groundwater. So it's something, whether it's engineering.
Do you
I think
have the money?
What's that?
Do you have
We
this?
have some money, yes. Yeah, I think we have right now, I think it,
657,
yeah. that's what we-
657,
that's
is that
what
what
we
you're saying?
received.
So
Exactly.
So there will be there's a general fund. Now we will have a specific fund for this and we have the enterprise fund.
I don't know. Are
Or
they
is
just
it-
gonna put this into your offset, where is it, how is it gonna go?
I
Are they
don't
gonna
know, what
reduce
the
your budget?
CFO set up the language, so I'm
Okay.
not sure
Or
These would be
is there a
questions.
specific, I don't know,
It's dedicated fund that.
dedicated fund within the enterprise?
Within the enterprise, but I
Yeah,
will
that's
get
what I think.
clarification
I think we
from,
should clarify
Yeah.
that in there.
yeah. Good question, you'll make sure for the hearing we have these answers.
Yeah, they'll ask you how you're gonna use it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then the use is sort of identified in the article.
But it's pretty obvious. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of testing that needs to be done.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
but it's not just limited, it's, treatment system design, installation, ongoing remediation
Yeah.
efforts, so again, through,
Operating costs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so those are the non-routines. And I will say, they will also raise questions, well, where are we? You know, so we'll be prepared to have that conversations as well. The more routine, and we won't need to spend much time on those, are really those articles that are annual. Generally, they are sort of getting authorization for the town manager to expend the money that's been put into our various enterprise funds, so. Well, first is a revolving fund, that would be for fees that engineering division collects to do right-of-way permits. So that's a revolving fund that we'd like to
is
be
the
able to.
easements thing new? I don't remember that.
No, the easement isn't new, it's relatively new. I
Okay.
think we just started a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I don't know why it didn't exist there before.
Yeah.
But it
okay.
is a
The
routine
return,
thing, because
okay.
every year there's some form of easement that,
Okay.
you know, is required to get approved through the select board. But that is, it's a relatively new, but now it's become routine. And the others, you know, the only thing that is sort of a little different is we're now including the stormwater system expenditures, just like the other enterprise. But other than that, those
My
are the-
understanding,
Yep.
last time when we did the stormwater, that the moderator said that she thinks, or that is for the consent agenda. Yeah, she thinks that stormwater for this year
might be on the consent.
should not be on
Oh,
the consent
okay.
agenda,
Fair enough.
which is one cycle to see what's going on.
Yep,
Yeah, that's good.
And then if there's not a lot going on,
That makes sense.
yeah,
okay.
just a heads up on that.
Sure, fair enough. And by the way, any of these could be pulled. And really, that's where the moderator decides, you know, oftentimes for education, this is worth the discussion. We want to hear a little bit more about it,
Right.
but I just. And then once if something is pulled and there is a presentation, then that's where a member of the commission will be the one to present. You'll work with staff, but it's a 3-minute presentation of just general information to the town meeting to explain what these programs are. So I think, Sven, to your point, that would be why stormwater would be pulled out, just to be an update. So I think those are, yeah, that's where we stand. Again, Chris, to your question of the hearings, we have the hearing dates and when we'll be, to some degree, making the presentation, some just listening and being there to support, depending who's actually sponsoring it. So. Okay,
All right, should we move on to director's?
director's report. Yeah, I think, what we can do, and in last time, you know, we don't have a formal presentation. I think it was just helpful to be able to answer some questions, you know, from the commission. Just to highlight a few things, that, you know, I think are, you know, important. And Steve, maybe, Steve and Paula can come up. I know Aaron and Russ were unable to, you know, stick around, but, I know, we wanted to give you an update on, the water billing issue, that was sort of out there, you know, fairly public. Paula was involved with sort of trying to, you know, sort of resolve this problem, but, you know, Paula, you want to explain kind of, a little bit, just, the background of that?
So as you all know, there was an issue in November and December. And there were two issues. One was a billing delay, which resulted in double billing. So just to give you a kind of an idea what happened. So typically a routine bill calculation happens early in the month based on the readings that are received. There was a glitch in the system regarding that bill calculation. I can't explain to you whatever, but there was an error in the software, which resulted in the bills not being able to be printed. That was on the 9th. On the day of the 10th, Johnny, our meter reader, uploaded all of the new readings. So when the bills then went out on the 11th, it included 2 months of readings. So therefore people were double billed.
And so does anybody take a look at, you know, what the
So
billing amount is? So they'd go, this is 2 months versus, you know, somebody do anything before they actually go zooming out?
CMLP is the ones, we don't see the bills once they're created. So CMLP manages that for us.
Did they do that?
I can't answer that. I know that they do spot check bills and they look for higher amounts.
Yeah.
Why it wasn't caught, I can't answer that on behalf of CMLP. I can tell you what happened is we did received calls that people had been double billed. So we contacted CMLP immediately. They realized what had happened, and then they went through and adjusted every bill that received a double bill, and people received corrected bills. So the other issue was the seasonal rate transition. And the billing system relies on preset rate schedules, and they have a timeline established with them. And they're in advance and operate based on billing periods, and that was set up at some point in the past. At the seasonal transition, one of the schedules reached the end of its time frame, unbeknownst to us. So as a result, the system continued applying the prior rate structure at the seasonal transition. So that's what happened with that. So all accounts have been corrected and credits have been applied where appropriate. We have implemented an SOP now that when the rate is changed at the beginning of the fiscal year, every month is just checked to make sure that the tier billing system is correct.
The revenue comes to you, right? Do you see the revenue hit when they do the bills, the revenue hits your GL?
It hits the CMLP takes all the payments, as does the town clerk.
Okay, so how do you get you don't get revenue from it?
We do in Munis once it's posted.
Okay.
It's
so
not
once
an
it gets
immediate,
posted.
it has to be
Okay.
posted by the
Yeah,
town.
collect,
by the
we don't,
collector's
we're not,
office.
we don't have a collection,
No,
Right,
so.
right, so it's posted by the collector's.
Okay.
office.
so somebody, right, so in both these cases for
Mhm.
misbilling, right, there should be an expectation of what the monthly billing is gonna be, and then when bills go out wrong, before they go out wrong, someone should go, this is not right. So if that doesn't happen here, it happens at CMLP, but you're the ones with the dirt on your shoes, not
Oh,
them,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if I were you, I'd be making sure I knew about what is that process and
Right.
are they doing it?
Right.
Because
We
somebody missed it.
Yeah, we had
Twice,
actually
right?
asked to be more involved in the pre-billing process, which we are not currently. We don't have a window into that. So I have requested that we get a window into that.
Yeah,
But
At a minimum, they should give
so,
you, what are you
yeah.
gonna bill this month,
Yeah,
right? So you can go,
agreed.
yeah, it looks reasonable, or it doesn't look reasonable. right?
Agreed.
There's a lot of this with the NISC standing up for, it's not just water sewer, but now we have stormwater, we have the solid waste recycling. And this is a bit of a challenge for our staff, we're starting to absorb these new roles and responsibilities. And we're doing the best we can with the existing FTE, the head count and that sort of thing, but it is a challenge. And, we're talking with the town manager about the need to be able to, when the service expands, it's not always obvious, but the service to be kind of account managers is a new thing for us. And so, fortunately, staff has stepped up, but we are, still trying to find out what's the right, kind of a level of staffing. And we do have someone we just brought on board to be a little bit more involved. This is a temporary position. This is to help us with the meter rollout because there's so much new additional work. But we want to see, what can they do to help, us with managing, the billing, and then because we don't bill, we don't collect, but we're impacted by both of them. So.
One thing we have done is within NISC, I have to say the reporting element is very poor. So what I've done is try to learn Mosaic, which is a back end to NISC. It's not the standard Mosaic, unfortunately. But I am now able to generate reports based on revenue. And what I do want to do is I want to look at high users on a monthly basis as well as standard revenue.
Right.
So, and receipts. So.
And zero readings.
Zero readings are a little bit different in that we get an exemption report every time we do a billing. And that is actually with our new business analyst. He's been doing a great job of identifying at every exception report how many more zero reads we have. And with the assistance of the temporary person that Alan just mentioned, they're getting right on top of those. So we have decreased our zero read significantly. There will be final notices sent to people this week, people who have been contacted but have not yet responded and set up an appointment. But we are on top of that.
Mhm. And so the storm billing, the new service, the new
Mhm.
billings are just going out. So
Mhm.
is that, how are you feeling about that? Are you comfortable with that yet, or is that still?
There's still some tweaks we have to do, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest with you. The cycle 20 bills went out on January 12th. That was the first round of bills, and we've had about 20 resident inquiries about them. And I talked to CMLP today because the majority of calls go to CMLP. And I talked to a couple of the customer service reps today, and they said there have been a couple people that are dissatisfied. But for the most part, residents understand the need for the program, and there hasn't been a lot of flack.
But in terms of the accuracy of the billing, so going back to the
There-
earlier thing.
There is, I am comfortable how to answer this. So there are numerous accounts that have to be corrected. So some of the bills went out as single-family residences when they were condos.
Okay.
So that has to be addressed, so they should only be paying a portion of the fee rather than the whole fee. So Sammy and I, who was just here, we're in the process of correcting those, and actually, as I was sitting there, we had an issue with that NISC system that we couldn't fix it. But they have now, I just got the email that they've corrected it, so I'll check that tomorrow. So there are some billings that we're gonna have to correct because of NISC constraints and how it was set up. So we're working through that. But so far we've sent 2,719 bills. And the next billing will go out on Tuesday, January 20th. So right now, our drive is to fix the cycle 21 bills, which will bill on the 20th to make sure
Ahead of
those are
time.
absolutely
Yeah.
correct ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
there's
calls
three
go to
cycles.
CMLP, they don't come here, they have people there.
And
who can
there's a
answer
customer
questions.
service group.
Yeah.
Who work, we support them because they provide service to, the enterprise water sewer. But they're stationed out of the municipal light plant's office and, under the responsibility of CMLP, but they work closely with us. We give them the messages, inform them what's happening so they can be, the first line of explanation. And also, with stormwater, it is an education, so, let people know, go to the website, look into this, and then any escalation would then go to engineering to be able to provide a little bit more detail.
Just very quick,
I'm sorry.
I'm hearing the need for quality assurance, and I make this suggestion with trepidation because I only half know what I'm talking about. But this feels like a really good application for AI. You have patterns of billing over many years. And I don't know if you've had any conversation with our IT director, but as opposed to individuals looking over these bills, you have data that can be easily analyzed by AI. This is
I'm actually working on
okay, this is a bread and butter AI.
Yeah, uploading
application.
past reports and
Yes.
understanding what the numbers should be, and
Yeah.
that's in process.
Great.
So that's important to know, kind of, it was a high visibility and again, I'm, real appreciative of the effort. And so, Paula is really stepped up. She's been, Bob Hill retired. Paula stepped in and Bob retired at the right time.
Yes, he did.
Paula's been doing a great job and Paul, your question of that next level of understanding she brings to the table, which is helpful, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we're sitting on so much data and so many good applications and new technology.
So just following up on that AI part.
Mhm.
So one important part is because you're dealing with information with respect to.
No PII is sent out, personal information. Is that
Okay,
what your
also the
question
address and everything.
Nothing. It's simply the monthly reports that give me a grand total at the end and
Okay,
analyzing that data. It's not
Okay.
anything to do with customer information, personal information.
Yeah.
So,
but they are also just in case I know they're now systems, AI systems that keep in this information in the close and it's not used for the general AI model. So if it ever goes that way, you have to have in mind that personal information
absolutely.
needs to be shielded against the training of the
Yeah.
larger language models.
Yeah, never any individual bill or any private data. It's simply the monthly averages and the monthly totals. So, I will mention on that, in that regard, one of the things I'm working on with the collector's office is there's never been a true reconciliation process between water and sewer and the collector's office. So that's something I'm trying to fix. That'll be a problem. Yes, it is. So I am trying to work with the collector's office to address that.
Okay,
Okay,
need to be paid.
there was another, let's see, I think. Other topic is sort of the work, I think, for Linda, just because that's part of the director's report, if you want to talk to the intersection.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, first we must have heard that Justin Richardson retired.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Retired.
Well,
Retired?
retired.
young
Not very far.
He was the one winning the lottery then.
He moved on.
He became a town engineer. He got an opportunity to lead another town, and he's, had 6 good years working with Steve, and so he should be up to the task, but, he will now have different responsibilities. So it's tough for us because he was a productive.
One of the reasons I mentioned that is because he was the lead on the Main Street Baker Avenue intersection project. Which I'm trying to follow up, trying to figure out where we really are with this. So to answer Ms. Neiman's question of concerns, the resident suggestions and ideas that were brought to us regarding other improvements, especially those to make bicycle accommodations, those were sent over to the designing firm, which is Jacobs Engineering. And they have been working and incorporating some more measures regarding bicycle accommodations, as well as other comments we had on their draft final plan. We were working towards trying to put this out to bid this winter for construction this year. Initial feedback, since that we don't have a full response from them yet, the initial feedback we got is that they are going to be they're going to try to reduce the travel lanes to 10-foot wide lanes, which is almost consistent with what is being asked from others who are suggesting reduced travel lanes for the purpose of, one, slower speeds, and two, it leaves more room for shoulders, wider shoulders. So based on the current design with that change, we should be getting at least 3-foot shoulders as opposed to what the design had shown before, 2-foot wide shoulders. I will continue to speak with Jacobs to see if we can squeeze a little bit more out, because we heard that bicycles can still travel a little bit more comfortably on shoulders that are 3.5 foot wide to probably 3 foot 9 inches. So we will work with them. There's a constraint on the project that makes it difficult to get more. There's another utility pole. It's major. It has 3 transformers, electric transformers. So we initiated some conversations with CMLP to see if they can do anything about that. Obviously, that'd be a costly project for them to move that pole, but we are going to entertain the idea of doing so. It may impact the project schedule, but we don't have an answer on that one yet. There is another major pole that we have had all kinds of discussions, and they are willing, and they've already put that on their schedule for relocating. That's within the intersection, but in order to get wider shoulders so that we continue the project beyond project limits, that other pole needs to be moved. So that's what's going on. Yeah.
Isn't the bridge a huge constraint?
The bridge would.
So I was gonna say that, I mean, I don't know, those sidewalks are pretty narrow there. That's probably, a 10-foot travel lane there anyways. It's a pretty, it narrows there anyway.
Yes, the bridge, we don't have control over the bridge. The bridge is a Mass DOT bridge. And I understand others have contacted Mass DOT about it. I can tell you from our dealings with passing Mass DOT, they said, if you're willing to do it, fund it and do it, we'll give you the permit. So
Okay.
the town can consider that. Obviously, we're talking big dollars.
But we could have all this beautiful bike lanes on either side of it. We're still gonna have that,
Well,
that choke point.
in reality, most projects, you have a choke point, and bicycles getting there will have to work with the problem vehicles, where you share the road.
Yeah.
So I'm not also promising that we're doing bike lanes through the intersection, but we're trying to get shoulders as wide as possible so that shoulders can be utilized by bicycles.
Do the shoulders have to be, they have to be certain width before they can be officially called bike lanes?
Yes.
And what is that width?
All right, so in terms of standards, because I want to make a comment that I've been seeing that these engineering companies are softening their approach to design. So you start with federal highway standards, which is the strictest of standards. They have big books that they follow, right? And so they have the strictest of standards. And then the states themselves, like Mass DOT, will come with their own design manual. And the standards might be a little bit more lenient than the federal highway standards. So we try to stick to the state standards, or engineers out there who work for us will do so. So ideally, in a section like this that has large number of vehicles, you would say you need 11-foot travel lanes. They would stick to the guns. But we're seeing based on communities' requests and desires, they're willing to go a little bit narrow. That's why we talk about the 10-foot wide lanes. What's your question again?
About how wide a shoulder has to be
Right.
before it can be
So-
officially a bike lane.
All right, so the standard for bicycle lanes, if it's curved, it's gonna be, you require a 5-foot wide shoulder for bike lane. If it's not curved, you can get away with a 4-foot wide shoulder. And based on recent discussions, Dr. Furt, who came and gave, the lecture, I think it was, he said 3'6" or 3'9" is acceptable for bicycle to use, but you would not call it a bike lane.
You can't paint it with a bike on it.
No.
Okay.
And there are other consequences of actually labeling street shoulders as bike lanes, because now you probably will eliminate parking.
Mhm.
We'll have to go through that whole dance with regulations to remove parking from streets that people need to use for parking. More on the project, the advisory committee, transportation advisory committee is having a meeting next Tuesday. And the chair reached out to me asking for an update. And I said, I have to follow up with Jacobs to see exactly where they are. So hopefully they'll have more details that I'm giving you today. At that meeting. And incidentally, that meeting on next Tuesday, Stantec is going to be there presenting a discussion on the safety projects and the evaluation criteria and that kind of thing. So, and I think you're going to be attending, I'm going to be attending, and I will talk more about the project if I have more information then.
This is to identify all those, the areas people have identified as of interest to improve safety conditions. And it's, we've called it a matrix, but it's really a list, and it will ultimately be ranked. Ranking is a fairly straightforward process. The prioritization will then be more of the sort of letting the community be involved, TAC have a voice and, help where we can then integrate those into our projects. And again, we have $2.5 million that we can sort of lean into, which is great. But that might also inform future town meetings for, capital special projects that we identify and get funded separately. So that's, I think those are the things that are high level that are worth. I don't know if you saw anything you want to ask questions and, from the
So
just report.
what we do with the Justin opening, are you looking for someone from the outside?
Oh, I will, it's important to know this. The town manager has made a commitment to the FinCom and I believe select board that, they're gonna evaluate every vacancy very carefully to ensure that, it's appropriate to fill it. At this point, it's been put on hold. So Steve is, angsting as he should be. We haven't been told we can't hire, but we need to make the case and explain. And obviously, when you look at the director's report, which I shared with the town manager, you can see the amount of work that engineering is involved with. And Justin, is, a very prolific engineer. So we're working through the process. I'd love to say it's been posted, but I think the town manager understands the importance, but we haven't been given the green light to post it yet. So those are the consequences of the whole budget cycle review and sort of concern about, sort of just being efficient.
Would you make the case too that you need another engineer?
It's primarily with the town manager. Yeah. And again, her commitment was she was gonna look at all vacancies and,
Or commitment to FinCom?
the pressure on the town operating budget, it's important. And I said, it's a little bit of a challenge because we said, well, of course it's obvious, but she has to treat every vacancy with the same discretion, so we're working through that. So, any other questions on the traffic report, or you gonna have a record tonight? Oh,
One quick question. So earlier you were kind of going through the line items and you were saying how the ask for the pedestrian and bicycle safety was declined.
Mhm.
I was just wondering, in part because we passed the $27 million paving/safety article. Is it essentially a net neutral then? Are we pulling back on funds that we would normally use to just maintain?
Here's the good news, bad news. We've asked for this funding for years, never got anything. So at least we have 2.5 million that we can, and again, the 2.5, if we can make it show the value, I think it'll help inform the community of the need.
Yeah, I mean, there was even like that little opinion piece in or letter in the bridge where, we had these visitors and they were just talking about the sidewalk on Main Street and how her elderly husband fell and just saying, she's like, please Concord, improve your sidewalks.
Yeah, it's a common, this challenge Concord is in, I have to say. I live in a beautiful community with sidewalks with tree roots going through. It's equally vital with visitors. I think everybody looks at budgets and we're just trying to do what we can with resources, but the value of maybe leveraging the borrowing we have could be really opportune right now.
Any more comments or questions from the room or online? Like we don't have any more. Do I have a motion?
I, Commissioner Bach, hereby make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All right, let's take a roll call. David, go on. He's muted.
Yeah, I can unmute.
I have to unmute so I can say aye, aye, aye.
Christine Reynolds.
Aye.
Sven Bieber.
Aye.
Gretchen Murbaugh.
Aye.
Audrey Solomon, aye. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.